Alright, what's up guys? Frank here with another video, and today I'm gonna make a video on how to incorporate a provincial company in Quebec, Canada, and this is step by step, okay? And I know that my target audience is probably French speaking, but I decided to make this video in English anyway because I make all my videos in English, okay? And so that's it. And so lately I've been incorporating a business, and so I just want to share my experience. And so if you're trying to incorporate a business or a company, well, you can use this video as some kind of guideline on how to do it. Okay, and so again, I'm speaking from my experience. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant or anything like that. It's just that last month I did an incorporation, and so maybe my experience can be useful to you. Okay, so let's go right in. So the first question that you must ask yourself is that why should you incorporate? Okay, and so having an incorporation has many benefits, and so one of the benefits that having a corporation is the tax benefit from the incorporation. And so when you own a corporation, there are a lot of benefits that are quite different from an employee perspective, or maybe a self-employed individual. And so you're able to save a lot of you're able to save money if you do it right. Okay, so that's one of the benefits that you can and that you have. And so another thing is that if you're trying to expand your business, or maybe in the future, it's a lot easier to have a corporation because you get easier access to some kind of funding, and you get access to different laws, and also your business is treated more seriously than being an individual. And so the last point is also having a corporation is literally being a separate identity from yourself. And so if some legal problem occur, then it's the business that deals with the problem and not yourself. And so it's a way to separate all the assets that you might have, and it's also separating the bills and all. You get to separate all the business stuff from the personal stuff. And so if there's any problem, uh, it's not your own assets that get attacked. And also, I think it's also good to separate everything from the business and from the personal stuff, because lately one of the problems that I had is that as a self-employed individual, I all my bills and all my credit card were using the personal stuff and the business stuff. And so having a separate corporation allows you to really separate, like, the business stuff from the personal stuff. Okay, and so another thing from having a separate identity like this is that if you decide to sell your business, you're tired of your business, well, you can sell it. You can sell the business way easier than if it was registered to your name. Okay, so those are few benefits from having a corporation. And so let's go into the steps. Okay, and so the first step is that you should ask yourself if you're ready to make the jump. Okay, and so the first thing that you'll need if you're trying to incorporate is that you will need some kind of money to pay for the incorporation fee. Okay, so usually it's about $1,000. It can go to maybe $1,500. So that's around this price to simply incorporate. So that's quite an expense. So that's something to think about. Okay, and so another thing that you should also think about is, are you making more than 30K dollars in revenue? Okay, and so me right now, one of the reasons why I decided to incorporate is that so far I didn't register the tax for myself. And so having an incorporation was an easy way for me to make the transition and register the tax on the corporation instead of myself. Okay, so maybe that's something that you might need to do if you're making more than 30K. And so that's something to keep in mind, okay? And another point, and again, I'm speaking from experience. Lately, one of my problems that I had is that all my personal expenses and my business expenses were all on the same credit card. And so because of that, all my credit card and also my bank accounts, like it was getting really messy in my credit card because I had to make the difference between the business stuff and also the personal stuff. And so having a different identity and then separate your business expense from your personal expenses is a great way to, like, it gets more order, I guess, okay? And so another reason that you might incorporate is that, again, you might want to expand the business in the future. And so having a corporation is way easier for that. And then step number two is that you must decide if you want a provincial business or a federal company, okay? And so generally, again, it depends on your operation, but generally a provincial company is enough. But it really depends on your operation that you're trying to do or that you're planning to do, okay? And you simply have to keep in mind that a federal company requires more paperwork and the cost is also a little bit higher. And so if you don't need a federal company, a federal business, like it's kind of useless to register a federal company, okay? And so oftentimes provincial company are enough, but again, it really depends on what you're trying to do. And the main difference between a federal company and a provincial company is really where you conduct your business, okay? And so having a federal company, a federal business, allows you to have offices across the Canada. So for example, if you need different offices in different states of in Canada or whatever, then you might need a federal business. If you're only planning to conduct business and having only an office in one province, one state, then a provincial business is probably enough, okay? And also an important thing to keep in mind is that even though you have a provincial business, and let's say, for example, you're registered only in Quebec, well, you can still like sell things in other part of the world. It's only like the offices, okay? So for example, I own an e-commerce business, and so I registered a provincial corporation, but I'm still able to sell across Canada and also sell across the world, okay? And so it's simply my own office is in Quebec, and because of that, a provincial business is enough for me, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. It's simply related to the offices, okay? So that's what it is. Number two is decide if you want a provincial or federal company. Step number three is decide if you want a specific name or not, okay? And so having a name for your company is optional, okay? And you can choose to have a name for your company or not. And if you decide to not have a name for your company, then your company will simply be a generic business number. And even if you have a name for your company, you will get a business number, but it's just that if you choose to not have a name, the number is going to be the business. The name of the business is going to be the number. And oftentimes, having a name for your corporation cost money. Okay, so for myself, I decided to have a name for my company, and it was about $115. And so if you decide to choose a name for a company, there's a few things that you have to keep in mind. One of the things is that you need to make sure that the name is available, and so oftentimes you will need to make some kind of research to do that. I would also recommend to check if the domain names are also available for, and what I mean domain names is simply the name of the website. And so for example, you have a business name that is XYZ, well, you want to make sure that the website XYZ is available. XYZ.com is available. Okay, so oftentimes when we register a business, yes, there's the business name, the company name, but that is also the name of the website that is also important. Okay, and also, especially if you're in Quebec, in the province of Quebec, there's a few things that you also need to keep in mind. There's a few rules. There are a few rules that you need to follow, and one of these rules that I had to check for myself is that in your business name, in the name of the company, you have to have a French word that in the name of the company that like it's kind of a law to have. You gotta have at least one French word in the name of the company. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. And then step number 4 is decide if you want to do it yourself or you can hire a lawyer. Okay, and I would highly recommend that you hire a lawyer because these things can be quite complicated and there's a lot of small details to keep in mind. And oftentimes, a lawyer they already know all these things, and to be honest, these things like are quite complicated and it's not necessarily you don't really need to do that by yourself. And so if you're comfortable doing it, you can do it. You might be able to save a few hundred dollars, but I would recommend that you hire a lawyer for that, and the lawyer will be able to help you with this. Okay, and so for myself, I went with Neo Legal. Okay, I'm not affiliated with them. It's just that I this is the lawyer that I chose. I had a great experience with them, and so I'm not affiliated with them, but I recommend them. And if you choose to hire a lawyer, I said it a bit earlier, but if you're trying to incorporate, you must be willing to pay around $1,000, and you might be able to save a few $100 if you're doing it yourself, because even though you're not paying for the service for the lawyer, there are still some government fees that you need to pay for registration and all these things, and so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, and also a great thing about lawyers is that they often provide a full package incorporation. Okay, and this full package includes everything that you need in it, and that can also include the tax registration. It can also the name search for the name of the company and the books and all these things. And so that's one of the reasons I recommend hire getting a lawyer for that can do it for you. And again, I chose Neo Legal here, and so I had a great experience with them. And so if you want to go with them, you can go with them. And basically, what happened with them is that I basically had a few meetings with them, and the meetings were phone meetings because they do everything remotely. And I find it pretty cool. So they do everything remotely, and so I had a few phone meeting where I just talk with some lawyers, and they could answer my questions. And also when I actually paid the service and I confirmed that I wanted the service, they sent me like a form where I just filled my name, the name of the company, the address of the company, and who the director is, who the president is, who owns the equity of the company, and all these things. As for myself, I am the only one in the company, so I basically filled everything under my name. But in some cases, maybe you have a few business partner or whatever, but then you can say all the information. You can fill all the information in the form. Okay, but again, this form it was sent to me by Neolegal, but I'm guessing like every lawyer has their own ways of working. Okay, but I went with Neolegal, and I'm not affiliated with them, but I had a great service with them. Okay, so Step number 4 is decide if you want to do it yourself or hire a lawyer. So basically, you do the registration for the company. Okay, so you basically do the incorporation yourself, or you hire a lawyer. That's basically what it is. Okay, and then step number 5 is open a bank account for your company. Okay, and so basically, you have your own personal bank account, and now you can choose to open a business bank account. Okay, and so that's something that you can do, since the corporation is now a complete new identity, and so you're able to open a bank account for your company. And so in my case, I decided to go with BMO because BMO, I actually checked a few plans for my business bank account, but I decided to go with BMO because BMO, uh, they have an e-commerce plan, and this e-commerce plan is basically free, and you have unlimited electronic transaction, and basically you have unlimited everything, and it's basically free, but you do everything electronically. Okay, you do basically everything on the computer or whatever. And for me, it was perfect for me because I basically own an e-commerce business, and everything is done on the internet, and so I'm very comfortable with the internet. And so for me, the e-business plan was perfect for me because it's free, and all the transactions were unlimited and online. So for me, it was great. And I also checked other banks, but all the other banks, they have it's pretty much all the same thing. The plans are pretty much all the same thing in all the banks, but the other banks, they had the same plan, but oftentimes here they charge like $5 or $6 for the same thing. So I decided to go with it because this one was free. Okay, and so that's something that you can look into as well. And if you're going to open a bank account, I would recommend to open a checking account for your normal transaction, your payments, or whatever. And also, you should probably also open a saving account to put your extra money in it so that it can grow a little bit higher rate. And then also another thing, you should also apply for a business credit card. Okay, so it's for yourself, or maybe you have business partners as well. So you can apply for business credit cards as well. And so that's it for number 5. You open a bank account for your business. Okay. And then number 6 is that once you have done all these things, once you've done all the name search, once you've done all the incorporation with the lawyer, and if you've opened your bank accounts, you're pretty all set. You can start using the company. The only thing that I would recommend is that if you don't already have an accountant, you should find one, because oftentimes the accountants, they can give you advices, they can give you tips on how to manage your money properly, especially everything related to taxes if you're kind of new into it. I know that right now I've never really done my taxes, so that's something that I need to learn. And so having an accountant can help you and give you advice on all these things. And also another thing to remember is that from now on, since you now have a business and a company, you will need to, at the end of the year, you will need to do the tax report for the company, and you will also need to do the tax report for yourself. And so that's something to keep in mind. And also, an accountant can help you with these things. Okay. And so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much my video on how to incorporate a provincial company in Quebec, Canada, step by step. And that was my experience with it. And I hope that this video was helpful to you. And if you have any question, please let me know. Okay. Peace.